Hello and welcome. Today we're talking about managing I/O devices. So that's going to be input-output based devices. So the devices you use to get information to and out of your computer, that's going to be what we're talking about. That could also include removable storage, keyboards, mice, scanners, printers, everything. Every device you connect to your device or to your computer is going to be one of those I/O devices. Normally they're connected either through like a USB or maybe even a wireless connection, but they're all the same in terms of we have to understand how to manage those devices within Windows 10. So let's talk about removable storage a little bit more in depth. Removable storage are devices that are part of the computer since pretty much at the beginning. They can be an optical drive like a CD or a DVD. They could also be a floppy disk. More so lately we're talking, or even possibly a zip disk. However, more so lately, we're talking predominantly storage. So we're talking like a USB that is flash-based. That's going to be more common. But I mean, we also have things like memory cards or external hard drives, cameras, an actual digital camera, phones, and other multimedia-based devices. Because if we say camera, we could talk about the phone camera, we could talk about a digital like DSLR camera, we could talk about a video camera, and so forth. So we have to understand kind of what to do with our USB storage devices. And that means, how do we actually ensure that we're dealing with them the correct way? So what do we mean by the right way? I'm plugging in a USB device. I have two USB devices that are currently plugged in. Alright, I have one USB device currently plugged in. I'm going to make sure it's attached to my virtual machine. Alright, that looked like it added the hardware. When you do that, actually, I'm going to play with this a little bit. Taskbar settings. I want to go ahead and, not taskbar, not what I wanted. Notification area. I want to see specifically the Windows Explorer always on. So when you plug in a USB device, you should get this guy right here. And when you click on it, it will tell you what USB devices you have. Well, I have a USB 802.11n USB wireless card. I can just yank it out. However, the proper procedure is to eject it. Ejecting it will take a minute, and it will actually disconnect the hardware correctly. So it's unplugged. So why do we do that? We do that so that if there happens to be data writing to the device, we can ensure that it is not ejecting it too soon. So I'm plugging in a USB device. I'm going to explore it. I did a download earlier, about 40 megs. I'm going to go ahead and copy that over, and I'll try to eject it. You'll notice I don't get the option to eject it. I could just unplug it while it's copying data over, but when you do that, you run the risk of the data being corrupted. Normally what ends up happening is when you plug in a flash drive, data will go to a cache before it's written. So if you unplug it, then there's some issues there. We also have the ability to use flash drives for better access performance. So access performance is going to be how fast we can access data. There are considerations in terms of data access performance with portable devices as well. To make data access and saves faster, it's possible to have the operating system cache the data and write it to the portable device later when there's free processor time. However, this will allow the possibility of the user accidentally removing the storage device before the data is actually written. Windows 10 defaultly writes the data immediately, minimizing the chance of data loss at the cost of performance. Pros and cons are really just depending on if you're wanting faster performance, but you're willing to sacrifice possible integrity, or if you're willing to sacrifice the speed, but you're able to gain integrity. It just really depends on the situation and what you're going for. Alright, so let's talk about how we configure the I/O devices. It's all done through Device Manager. You can click on any of the devices in Device Manager and you can drill down to see what's going on. If we're looking at storage device, we can actually explore our storage devices. So here I have my Device Manager. I will drill down on my disk drive. I can see the volume. I can see some of the details with the policies. I can see my capacity. I can see my system use. I can see that it's using an MBR. I can see that it's a basic type of disk. It's also online. I can see the driver in use, and I can see certain details. When you do, let's do imaging device. There are some things where you don't really get to configure a whole bunch of them. Let's look at printer queues. So here we actually have settings, and we can do that and look at the settings by going to devices and printers. So inside the control panel, in the hardware and software section, there is a tab for devices and printers. These are all the devices that are currently connected to my physical machine. I have a audio player. It's a Yamaha HTR 4065 that I can stream data to. I have a Xbox One. I have a Western Digital MyBook. I have a Logitech Brio. And again, if you look at them, you can see the hardware. Some of them have properties you can drill down into. And then there's events to track what's going on with them. I have a Yeti microphone. And here's all the device functions. You'll notice HID is a big one. HID is Human Interface Device. We have some printers that we can play with. So I will look at my Brother printer. My Brother printer is currently offline because it's currently unplugged. But I can at least still look at some of the printer properties. And that's going to be the address of the printer, if I'm sharing it or not, the ports that are available to it. If I'm sharing it through the Advanced tab, and I'm going to leave printers alone for right now because we have a section just on printers alone. The important part here is as you drill down into this, you can see details. Here, this is my PC. My PC is built off of a Z170X Gaming 7 board, brought to you by Gigabyte. And then you can see the specific details of the hardware that's attached to that motherboard. These are my monitors. They're listed as a generic PMP monitor, even though the audio is detected as a 289 KDP audio. I've not been able to find device drivers for these monitors, so Windows keeps installing just the generic PNP, which is acceptable because I'm using three 4K monitors, but I'm running them at 1080p, so I'm actually really underutilizing them, but it works for my situation. So what's the point of all of this? The point is, when you're dealing with I/O devices, more often than not USB devices, you need to understand, can you just pull it out? Some devices you can. Some devices you should not. Alright, so I have my flash drive. It's plugged in. It's plugged in as eDrive. Let's look at the properties. We have tools, which are the built-in Windows tools. We have the hardware portion, sharing. We have ReadyBoost. So ReadyBoost, you can copy certain files to the USB device to make it boot faster. However, I'm using NVMe drives, so ReadyBoost isn't going to help my PC load faster because it has NVMe-based drives. If it didn't, then you could explore this by turning it on. So there aren't really a lot of places for you to manipulate our USB settings. Settings, devices. Patriot memory is again. You know what? I don't know if that is. Yeah, it's a Patriot memory stick. You can remove it through settings. You can also do recovery to USB. If you're doing a recovery drive, you can set it to actually go and save data to the USB device. Again, part of this is just kind of depending on your situation, what you're looking at. The important part here is, more often than not, try to safely eject your media. Right click on it and eject. If that doesn't work, you can do some searching for ejecting USB to see if that will help you. If you have no other option but unplugging it, then unplug it. But try to safely eject it first. If nothing else, you can always power off the machine and eject it that way. That's more time consuming, but when you're worried about the integrity of the data on the flash drive, sometimes you have to be a little bit more cautious. Alright, so that is all I had about our safely removing of our I/O based devices and predominantly our USB devices in a nutshell. If you have any questions or concerns, please feel free to reach out. Thank you.